Hello, everybody. And just to confuse things, I'm not in Hampstead Synagogue. I'm in Bristol in the west of England. But so good to see you all. Mo'adim simcha, very, very happy Sukkot. I'm not in my Sukkah. We couldn't get all the gadgetry and gizmos in there. But I hope you're having a grand time of it. We're going around the world, everybody. And I was going to co-host this with Sarah Tuttle-Singer of the Times of Israel. And just at the 11th hour, she fell ill and hasn't been able to do this. Anyway, isn't this great? We can send her a global refuah shalema. She tells us it's not anything to worry about, but I hope this speeds her up with all of our good wishes from around the world. So we've got a grand audience from all over the place. And I'm co-hosting again with Penny Dunner, Rabbi Dunner from, well, he's originally from the UK. There he is. But he's again in California. I'm here. There in Los Angeles. Hello, Penny. Good to see you again.
Wonderful to be with you.
This Succah Hop, you saw two, maybe you didn't see one, but this is even bigger and better than we managed last year. We went all around the world and we're going even further around the world this time. And we're going to start with going to Jamaica. We told you we're going to interesting places. We're going to Jamaica, and in Jamaica is the United Congregation of Israelites. It's a long-standing community. It's one of the oldest communities in the whole of the Western Hemisphere. And they've got sandy floored shuls. They've got, oh, I can hear something going on in the background there. They've got sandy floored shoes. That means when you go into shul, you take your shoes and socks off, and it's like walking on the beach. What more could you want? So we're going to go and hear from them. And while we're listening to them, folks, please send us in the comment section. Tell us where you are. Tell us where you're listening to this and how it's coming across to you. So, folks, let's see if we can switch to Jamaica, Kingston, Jamaica, and the United Congregation of Israelites.
Bendigamos a El Altísimo, al Señor que nos creó. démosle agradecimiento por los bienes que nos dio. Alabado sea su santo nombre, que en nos siempre sea apiado. Hodulado nakito, kile olam hasto.
We are celebrating on the Sukkah. Our Sukkah is made of coconut boughs, the leaves of the coconut tree, because they're the most common leaf that we can get.
Well, I'll tell you what Sukkot means to me. It speaks to me of a time to come. It speaks to me of God's protection and presence over our people always. And that, even our bodies are temporary dwellings. This is a temporary dwelling, and we really survive and live by God's presence, by God's strength, by God's help.
Sukkot mean to you?
It means to me God's protection. As people of Israel, as Jews, were commanded to live, eat, sleep, and stay in the Sukkah for 7 days. And that just highlights that even we're exposed to the elements, God is protecting us.
Okay. What is your favorite part of Sukkot?
The food.
We close our normal Sukkah program by singing the Bendigamos, which is the old Spanish thank you for your meal and giving thanks in that sense, which is an old traditional Sephardic tradition. And now we're singing it.
Llegamos a el Altísimo por el pan primeramente y después por los manjares que comimos juntamente. Pues comimos y bebimos alegremente su merced, nunca nos falta lo adora que es bueno y para siempre su merced. Dios bendiga la casa esta, que no falta en ella fiesta, tarde ni mañana ni siestanos, y todos hijos de Israel.
Well, wasn't that
Wonderful
grand?
stuff there, isn't it, Clive? Have you ever been to Jamaica?
Yeah, I was there just 3 or 4 years ago in that community with them. It's a very old community, as I say. The Jews came to Jamaica escaping the Spanish Inquisition. They of course they went from Spain. That's where people turned up in Jamaica. And when the British took over Jamaica from the Spaniards, the Jews didn't have to hide anymore.
It's remarkable that these communities have survived over so many centuries. I'm sure they've always struggled to find people, but it's amazing just to see Sukkot in such a far-flung location.
It's wonderful, Benny. I'm chief executive of something called the Commonwealth Jewish Council. So I find these small communities, it's very exciting because, we who come from large communities, you think you need thousands and thousands of Jews to make something work. And yet out there you have these small groups. And we're going to shift across the world now. Look, I know we're all zoomed out mostly because of COVID, but this is the wonderful thing, isn't it? That we can just zip away from the Caribbean now and go to whizzo to Africa. And now we're going to Kenya, to Nairobi, another community, hundreds and hundreds of miles from any other Jewish community, but still going beautifully strong out there. So now let's go over to Nairobi, Rabbi Nathaniel and Avital, the rabbis of the Nairobi Hebrew congregation, and they're meeting us with some of their members.
Hi everyone. Hi Samaya from Nairobi, Kenya.
Well, I said we're going
to come.
Now, this is a very, very little new member of the community. How old now?
She's almost 11 months.
Almost 11 months. There you are. Hasn't become very African yet, but on her way. So, Nathaniel, Avital, what are you going to tell us about Sukkot in Nairobi? You're there
in Nairobi. Right? So, first I'll tell you a little bit about our community here. We have about a few hundred Jews that are living here from all over the world. We have from Israel, from the UK, from the States, and from Kenya as well. And people from a wide range of backgrounds. And we kind of all get together here at the synagogue, at the community, and at the Sukkah. And it's really lovely. And for Sukkot, I can tell you we've only been here for 6 months. But what's unique here about Sukkot is we do every year Sukkah building event with the whole community where everyone comes and the children make the decorations for the Sukkah and the adults build the Sukkah. And it's really lovely. And then afterwards, everyone can enjoy kind of a meal together in the Sukkah with all the decorations that they have made. So I don't know if you could see the sign behind me. It says "Welcome Ushpizin." I probably am blocking most of it. But that's actually a sign that the children in the Hebrew school that we just started have made when we were teaching them about Ushpizin. So it's really special to have that as part of our Sukkah and kind of knowing that, we're passing on these traditions to the next generation.
Yeah, Avital, this idea of Ushpizin is a lovely idea, isn't it? Not widely known, I think, of this mystical sense that when we sit in our Sukkah, we're going to be joined by all these grand characters from the Jewish past, Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, and David, and Moses, and so on. What a wonderful idea to think that let's hope it's a wonderful idea. We're not intimidated by it, that they're sitting in our Sukkah with us. And we've just been in Jamaica, and they told us that they covered their Sukkah with coconut branches. That's the easiest thing they can get hold of. So I can see things hanging down there. What do you put on your Sukkah?
These are palm branches that we actually pick here from the gardens. Our synagogue is on a beautiful compound with huge gardens. And so every year we cut down some of the leaves from the palm trees and we use that for the Sukkah.
It's remarkable to me. I saw bananas hanging in Jamaica and I thought they just have to go out and pick them. We have to go to the supermarket and buy them. So, Kenya is just a cornucopia of fabulous fruits, isn't it? It's a little paradise, really, just burgeoning with stuff on every tree. So how wonderful to be in your Sukkah.
Do you want me to show you? Can I show you around our Sukkah a little?
Please do.
Okay. Let me see. Let me just turn. Oh, I turned it off.
Don't turn it off. That's not the right idea.
Okay, you're turning it upside down, right?
I wanted to turn it around.
Okay, don't worry if you can't. Don't worry about that. We can see a paper chain in the background there. There we got
beautiful.
The sitting there. So you're not on your own.
No, so we have our guests, our Ushpizin in the Sukkah. These are some of the members of our community that have joined us tonight. We're doing a little oneg in our Sukkah here with the guitar and everything. Lovely, so you can see the decorations here that we've made.
Oh, great. Well, it's good to see that the kids are getting into it too and that you've got guests there. That's marvelous. That's wonderful. Well, welcome to the guests as well from all around the world. I don't know if they can hear us.
They can hear you.
They can. Okay, so it's good to see you and
Clive,
thank you for contributing.
Clive, don't you find it remarkable that as different as all the Sukkot are, wherever we are in the world, they still retain a semblance of each other. They're similar to each other. And it's so wonderful to know that wherever you are in the world, you can be in Africa, you can be in the Western Hemisphere, wherever you're going to be, you're going to find a Sukkah, which is going to be very familiar to what you're used to.
Penny, I just wrote this the other day, actually. It's not surprising at all that Jews differ over things. We've been scattered all over the world for thousands of years, for goodness sake. Of course we're going to differ. What is truly surprising, as you just said, is how much we have in common. Wherever you go in the world, if somebody says, I've got a Sukkah, you're going to recognize it. It might have coconut branches rather than laurel leaves or whatever it is you do in your country, but you're going to recognize it. Just amazing how much we have in common after thousands of years of being scattered. It's just the most amazing, it's miraculous, really, I think. Totally. And, folks, our next jump, We've left Nairobi. You saw them. They're going to get into their food, I guess. But we're not going very far. We're now shifting over across a little bit of Africa to a country called Tanzania and a town in that country called Arusha. And there in that town is a small Jewish community which came into being because of Yemenite Jews that traveled across from the Yemen, arrived in Tanzania, and have slowly been living there over the last, I don't know, hundreds of years. But for about the last 100 years or so, they kept very quiet and kept themselves to themselves. And only recently they thought, wait a minute, there's a Jewish world out there and we want to connect to them. And they just built a synagogue in Arusha. And so we're going to go over to them. This is the B'nai Levi Shabazi. They're the leftovers, as it were, of this Yemenite community that arrived in Arusha. Traditionalist Baladis. So any other Yemenites on this call, you should recognize your family. So over to Tanzania.
Chag Sameach, this is our synagogue, Arusha Shalem Shabazi synagogue. It is called so because of our legendary Yemenite poem Mori Shalem al-Shabazi. And yes, and on top on the other side, it is a Beit Midrash, Eliyahu Beit Midrash. This synagogue in the same place were founded in 1782. It was destroyed 7 times and we reinstated 7 times. Sukkah, every year it is big a bit, depends who is people, but this times also there were not so many people, so because of Corona still, but the traditions still persisted as it was. As you can see, we don't use chairs because traditionally our forefathers did not use chairs in the desert, so it was brought like this. We eat communally in the middles, and the carpet they were using before, they were skin hide, and which is resembling with the carpet now. The carpet is more Arabic, but it is still also like a desert-like. So we maintain the tradition as it is. Chag Sameach, we are in the 3rd day of Sukkot, just like we have been doing all the years as part of an inheritance from our forefathers. So today is the 3rd day, and Sukkot is one of the holy days that's commanded in the Torah, including Pesach and Shavuot.
Bo Hashem Shalom, Malachei Shalom, Malachei Elyon, Mimele Malachei Malachim HaKadosh Baruch Hu.
My name is Meira. I come from KKSY community. I wish you a happy school.
That's a lovely little addition. Do you remember, Benny, last year we went to Maputo in Mozambique, and they also had those beautiful textiles around their sukkah. And that if we're trying to remember what it was like to wander in the wilderness, it must have looked a lot more like that than it does like our sort of steel and canvas things that we have.
I think they were more tent-like than these constructed sukkot from wood and whatever, because they had to be transported from one place to another, and obviously they had to be very mobile, and using drapes and textiles, as you say, it seems much more authentic.
It did, didn't it? Yes. I think we're seeing something. We're getting a little insight for those of us who live in the over-sophisticated West. We're getting a little bit of an insight into how Sukkot perhaps really ought to work, I guess. But anyway, so that's a little bit of Africa. Look, guys, we're jumping about all over the place. We're now going to leap over to Asia, and we're going to India. The Mumbai Jewish community, in particular, we're going to the Magen Hasidim Synagogue in Mumbai, and we're going to see.
I've heard of Belzer Hasidim, but I've never heard of Mumbai Hasidim.
Well, there you go, Ben. It's a whole new experience. We've got that going. So let's see what India has to tell us.
Shalom everyone. My name is Labana and I represent the small Bene Israel Jewish community of Mumbai, of about 2,000 people in Mumbai and Thane. I'm very, very happy to be a part of the Sukkah celebrations of the Succah Hop, and I'm going to share with you a small glimpse of what my community really did at the Magen Hasidim Synagogue during the Succah Hop or the Sukkah celebrations. Please join me. I am very, very happy to even let you know that yes, COVID hit us very hard in Mumbai, in Maharashtra, being on the top of the list of COVID casualties. However, the Bene Israeli community, by the grace of God and with the help and support of the international and the Indian jury, is safe and doing well today. Thank you for being with us. Wishing everyone a very, very Chag Sukkot Sameach.
Avidan ben Yonatan Solomon Hawash Kullaye.
Shem Rabot, Shem Rabot, Shem Rabot.
Chag Sameach, welcome to Sydney, Australia. An honor to have you on our shores and privileged to be part of this very special initiative. This is an initiative that really talks about the unity of the Jewish people, and I think there is a holiday that tells the heart of Jewish unity would have to be a holiday of Sukkot. Because after all, think about this for a moment. We take four special coins, the Lulav, the Esrog, the Aruvot, and the Hadassim, but we make the blessing on what? On the Lulav. Why don't we make the blessing on the Esrog? The Esrog is the most precious, perhaps most expensive of the four coins. Why is the blessing decided on the Lulav? And I think one of the very beautiful insights that I brought down is because the Lulav reaches out, takes the Hadassim and the Aruvot, points to them. Next week, he wants to be part of their lives. The Esther, on the other hand, as beautiful as it is, lives in its own beautiful box. It has a silver box, or a wooden box, or a velvet pouch. It's living in its own orbit, in its own home. The lulav reaches out and he connects itself to even those cards that are different to it, that look different, that behave differently. Really, Jewish unity is about being able to see how we are one with another unity, regardless of what walk of life they come from, regardless of how engaged they are. The Jewish communities, wherever they are in the world, think about others. At times of trying, times of trouble, where they're crying for you, praying for you. At the times of simcha and happiness, we're rejoicing for you. This is the Yom Tov of Jewish unity. This is the Yom Tov where we make the blessing of lulav that engages with others. And for the Jewish community here in Sydney, community out in London, we're all one. Let's remain one. Chag Sameach. God bless you.
Chag Sameach, Shana Tova from Auckland, New Zealand, first to celebrate Sukkot of 5782 in the world. Chag Sameach to all of you in the Commonwealth communities. We are at level 4 lockdown in New Zealand, and this Sukkah now takes us to the furthest we can get out of the home, out of our houses. No shul, but we do have Hashem dwelling with us in the Sukkah. And it's wonderful to think of Sukkot as the schach represent the clouds of glory. That actually we don't need much to feel secure and to feel protected by Hashem. When this virus is still ramping everywhere around the world, we feel perhaps scared, we feel perhaps it's challenging. But the Sukkah is a great reminder that actually Hashem is protecting us. Yes, of course, we have to do whatever we can to protect each other and protect lives. But first and foremost, if we have that beautiful security in Hashem, even a small sukkah with just a few leaves around can make us feel true joy. That's the essence of Sukkot, the time of our gladness. Wishing you all Chag Sameach and stay safe from New Zealand.
Well, I mean, goodness, I don't know if you're feeling a bit head spun as we travel from India to Australia to New Zealand. But how great to see all this, and how important to remember that all of these countries, as are ours, are still struggling with the business of COVID in various different stages of lockdown or limitation or whatever it might be in different places. And let's hope the vaccination gets out to people as quickly as it can, and that life is a little bit lightened and eased for them. Can I just mention, Penny, we've got Janet Bain, we've got Bernadette Denya, Deborah Sinclair, Jeremy Wolfson, they're watching, and a little shout out to them.
Wonderful.
Thanks for getting in contact with us. Please tell us where you are in the comments.
There. Thank you.
Yeah, tell us where you are in the comments, everybody. Keep us in touch. So look, we're going to move on a bit from the Commonwealth bit because we're moving over now to Israel, which hasn't yet joined the Commonwealth. Give it time. And a really, really amazing place called Boys Town. If you've not heard of it, do look it up. It's a remarkable initiative. Penny, have you ever visited or come across it? Penny, do you know Boys Town?
I know Boys Town very well. You know that Boys Town, Jerusalem, is one of the... It started off as an orphanage, and it's now developed into a school for those who are underprivileged. It does incredible work for them, and it's had representation for funding all over the world for many, many years. And I'm really excited to see the children of Boys Town celebrating Sukkot, because over the years I've raised money for Boys Town. I'm sure you have, Clive, but we never really get to see it. When we go to Israel, we're doing other things. But let's hear from Boys Town.
Yeah, let's go to them.
Shalom, my name is Yoni Strimber from Boys Town, Jerusalem. Very happy to be a part of the United Synagogue Succah Hop. Welcome to our sukkah here overlooking the Judean mountains. Boys Town, Jerusalem is a home away from home for almost 1,000 boys. Boys from limited backgrounds. We offer them limitless futures. Since 1948, the beginning of the state. Happy to be here with you today, together with our American friends, our British friends of Boys Town, of course, our Australian friends, Canadian friends, all worldwide people supporting our boys for many, many years. Coming up now, you're going to see a music video that our boys did for your enjoyment. I have to tell you, it was done before we had to worry about issues with the pandemic, but I'm sure you're going to enjoy this video, and it'll be a great thing to help liven up everybody's Chag. Chag Sameach and Happy Sukkot.
ושמחת בחגיך והיית שמח
Wasn't that amazing?
Clive, here we are. I mean, when you watch that, you think to yourself, come on, I wish I could do that.
That's so talented. How he got any music out of that multicolored balloon, I don't know, but he did somehow. That was what a talented lot. What a great show. That's
absolutely fantastic. Lovely? A real refresher.
Yeah, so nice to have that coming out of Jerusalem to all the Jews in the world. That was grand. And we're not leaving Israel yet because we're going to be joined by two Israeli comedians. We're not going to expect them to be very funny unless they want. But Avi Lieberman and Benji Lovett are going to be joining us. There's Avi and there's Benji. Well, I was just wondering whether you can be funny just at the drop of a hat. Has Sukkot got you down?
I always love hearing an intro. We don't expect them to be very funny. That's the greatest intro I've ever given. And I have to say, I've never been live on any on any type of platform with people from prison before. So it was nice to see Australia and New Zealand. It was, if you guys can relate, we had somebody test positive way up in the north in the Golan Heights, and they closed down a lot. So they were just taking Australia's cue. So it totally made sense. Just shut down everything for one guy testing positive. So good for you guys. By the way,
we've had the same thing. You know, we had somebody test positive and we had someone test positive in Alaska and they closed down California, but the distance is greater. We just don't get it.
Makes total sense. But it was good that the sukkah was there next to the rabbi in Australia because they could just use that as an immediate prison cell. Just throw them in there, lock them in, and you're good to go. So yes, I'm here, by the way, from the famous Muffin Boutique sukkah. They were nice enough to let me come in and utilize their sukkah. They gave me some cookies, which of course is fantastic. So yeah, one of the best boutique with great restaurants. So they let me come in and use their sukkah around the corner. I'm downtown in Jerusalem. So you can see me walk by. It's great. Yeah.
Right, that's great. Benji, where are you?
I am on the roof of a building in Tel Aviv in my friend's sukkah. It's so windy that the sukkah blew over, so we've got it up temporarily, just for hopefully a few more minutes.
But I think that's the whole point. The whole point of sukkahs is it's got to be temporary. Yeah, and in England, if it's not raining, it isn't sukkahs.
Yeah, you fulfilled the mitzvah there, Benji, by being in something that really doesn't stand up to anything at all. That's great. I think it's brilliant of the Jews to have already, when people say it's better to meet outside, best not to be indoors with other folk because of COVID, and we're all ready for this, aren't we? Just build out. Go and sit outside, COVID-friendly kind of arrangement. So how's COVID striking you? I mean, Avi, it seemed to me like you were a bit impatient with it.
I thought I was impatient?
Yeah. I mean, all this locking down every 10 minutes.
Oh yeah, no, it's the greatest. Yeah, that's what do comedians love better than having your entire career taken away from you and not being able to travel or go anywhere? It's fantastic. So, what better way for something that has a basically no chance? It has a 99% survival rate. It's the greatest. So yeah, we love it.
I read you as a skeptic there, Avi. Right. What about you, Benji? Yeah. Benji, you more submissive to the zeitgeist? You're accepting the way it goes, or
yeah. I have not left my home in a year and a half, so if you could send some food to my apartment, that would be great. I've not seen a human being since March of 2020.
Oh, how sad that the first human beings you should... Yeah, what a shame that the first human beings that you should see then are us. I mean, that's just sad altogether. But there are better ones out there, Benji. Don't despair. There are more to see. Avi, when I said I didn't expect you to be funny, it's not because I don't think you're funny. It's because I wasn't trying to put you under any pressure. That's all.
I know, I'm just teasing. Yeah, for what I'm getting paid, there's no pressure at all, believe me.
Okay, that's great. So what do the next days hold for you? How does Simchat Torah go with you guys? Do you do anything with it? Is it anything happen?
I'm here just so we can do one day of Chag. That's the reason why I come to Israel every day. So that's every year for this holiday. So I'm looking forward to it.
It took you 3 days to get there and you had to wear a mask, but it's okay because I'm only keeping 1 day of Chag. It's
all worth it. You keep 1 day of Chag, it's all worth it. In Jerusalem, you can keep 25 minutes. That's the beauty. It's just half the day here. So that's, the holier it gets, the less time you keep. So.
I spend Simchat Torah. I spend the day eating as much matzah as I possibly can.
Well, I think that's very conventional of you, Benji. And it's good to get into training, isn't it?
Absolutely,
start early. It's like shop early for Christmas, eat matzah early for Pesach. I think that's a good approach.
Eating matzah on Simchat Torah will prepare you for a very long leap year winter.
Yeah, oh, that's true. We got another month, an extra month put in the winter just to make it even longer. Well, that's something to look forward to. 5782 is an extra long year. Guys, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you.
And
thanks for having us.
Our loves to Jerusalem and the mall, and to Tel Aviv and the roof. You can come in now, Benji. You don't have to expose yourself to the blizzards any longer. And Avi, I guess you'll go and get a donut or something now.
Yeah.
Since you're
Enjoy.
in the spot.
Yeah, we'll see you guys soon.
All right. Okay, guys.
Chag
Sameach to you all.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. I always find this strange thing about the one-day festival, Penny, because, normally if you have a holiday and somebody says you've got a week holiday, you go, well, that's great. And if they say, well, you can have 2 weeks holiday, go, that's even better. But here we say you can have one-day festival. Oh, that's tremendous. You can have 2 days festival. Do I really have to? Oh, that's a drag. I wish I could.
Well, I think it's the basis of the 2-day festival is what you can achieve in Eretz Israel takes 2 days in Chutz La'aretz. And I think actually, I enjoy the 2-day Yom Tov.
Me too. I like it.
And I know that people go to Israel and they're very eager to keep the 1 day. I would miss it. I don't live in Israel. I'm sure one day I'll move to Israel and I'll keep 1 day of Chag. But I'm very pleased with my 2-day, and especially at the end of Sukkot when you have Shmini Atzeres, where you've got the serious day and you pray for the rain and you do Yizkor, etc. And then you've got the second day, which is Simchat Torah, which is just such fun, and it can focus on the fun. So I think that splitting up the 2 days, and especially at the end of Sukkot, makes a lot of sense.
Well, actually, of course, Benny, Simchat Torah was invented in the diaspora.
Yes.
So it wasn't originally an Israeli Holy Land event.
It was a tag-on because you had to complete the cycle of the laning. So it was a tag-on, but it's, I think, developed in a life of its own, and it's a fabulous festival. It's so full of joy and fun, and it doesn't quite blend with Shmini Atzeret.
No, it's very odd when you cram it together. It wasn't designed to be crammed. It was designed for 2 days festival. And now Israel, in this particular instance, in this one instance, finds itself unfortunate in having only one festive day. It's got to try and do both things on the same day. Anyway, we are here in the middle of Sukkot now. Hoshana Rabbah tonight and tomorrow. Mostly not paid much attention to by a lot of people, but a real buzz of a day, really. Some remarkable accounts in the Talmud of people, acrobatics and all sorts of things to celebrate the great celebration of Simchat Bet HaShoeva, the water pouring ceremony, and all of that went on in the middle. Anyway, but let's move on, guys, because we're now going to turn to the country of our birth, both of us. Because even though you're there in Beverly Hills, Spinny, you're really a Brit. Let's be honest about it. And we're turning. Right,
I'm not denying it.
You can't shake it off. We're going to hear more about California in due course, so we're not ignoring that. But right now we're turning to the UK. The United Synagogue, those of you around the world don't know about it, it's a remarkable setup of over 60, 70 synagogues all around London and the rest of Britain now, more and more joining. It's got a beautiful, inclusive way about it. All kinds of Jews belonging to the United Synagogue. So although it's Orthodox, tremendously inclusive of people of all kinds of approaches and backgrounds and attitudes. A lovely thing to see. And co-hosts on this, the United Synagogue, we've got Gabriel Herman and Madeline Abramson from Hampstead Synagogue, one of the great flagship synagogues of the United Synagogue. So over to you, Gabriel and Madeline. Welcome, and Moadim L'Simcha. Happy festival to you.
Like you. Thank you so much to Clive and to Tara Dunner as well. Thank you so much for that. And Madeline, good to see you. We are both members of the Hampstead Synagogue, and that's exactly where we find you tonight. How are you? I'm finding it hard to hear you. I'm wondering if there's a issue.
You hear me now? Should be fine. You can
yes,
hear me.
Fine
Great.
now. Yeah.
Okay. Modim l'simcha to everybody, and how wonderful to be on an international stage. And Gabriel, where are you?
Well, I'm
Why
actually.
Are you not at Hampstead?
Good question. I'm actually on the roof here in central London, and this is the new West End Synagogue. And it predates our shul. Our shul, as you know, was established in 1892. This one, 1879. And it's the oldest United Synagogue building still in existence. And behind me, you can see a view which the public don't normally get to see, which is the side of the roof of the shul. So that's really rather remarkable. The sukkah is over there. You'll see it over in a few moments, but we've got a lot to get through in the UK. So Madeline, where are you going to take us to first?
We're going to hear from the British Chief Rabbi, also the Chief Rabbi of the United Hebrew Congregations of the Commonwealth, and that is Ephraim Mervis.
I would like to congratulate everyone responsible for planning and staging this wonderful global Succah Hop, and thank you to all of you who are participating right now. Sukkot is a festival which reflects our pride in being Jewish. You see, the precept, the mitzvah to dwell in a sukkah is one that can never be kept a secret. You can't have an underground sukkah. That's because in order for a sukkah to be fit and kosher, it must be open to the elements. People must be able to see it. So therefore, through the festival of Sukkot, we're making a statement. We are Jewish and we're proud of it. At the same time, Sukkot is a festival which inspires us to be responsible to all of humankind. In temple times, 70 sacrifices were brought as a symbol of the 70 original nations on earth. So therefore, through Sukkot, our tradition is calling upon us to be responsible to our own identity and through our Jewishness to be a blessing to our environment. I would like to congratulate all of you and your communities for doing just that during this very trying and challenging pandemic period. Congratulations for taking your communities mechail el chail, from strength to strength despite the pandemic. And in addition, thank you so much for the chesed, the acts of altruistic kindness, which you have been showing towards all those around you. Please continue to invest in your communities and to guarantee that we will have strong and vibrant Yiddishkeit right around the world. And please do continue to recognize that every single human being on earth is created in the image of God, and therefore please carry on with your wonderful acts of kindness towards one and all. And please God, by the time we reach next Sukkot in 1 year's time, may we have a stronger and healthier world to live in. Chag Sameach.
Well, thanks very much there to the Chief Rabbi. Madeline, last year, do you remember, the Chief Rabbi couldn't get into his sukkah because it was pouring down with rain. And just to let you know, I've got my umbrella just in case. So this is London, we can promise you that. Okay.
But we've had a wonderful sukkahs, haven't we? Unlike Israel, where they're being blown off the roof, it's been really mild here this year. But we'll have to pray for rain. We will have to.
You're absolutely right. Okay, where are we going now?
We're going up north to Manchester and the Manchester Jewish Museum, where I hope Dara Loughlin is waiting for us.
Hi, I'm Dara Loughlin from Manchester Jewish Museum. I'm standing here in the former synagogue that makes up part of our museum, and it's really, really exciting because we've just reopened after a 2-year-long renovation project, which has seen the synagogue restored and a brand new gallery built next door. And during that renovation, we found something absolutely fantastic in the walls of the synagogue. We found a time capsule that dates back to 1874, when the synagogue was first built. I'm going to head over to our sukkah so we can have a closer look at that time capsule and some other objects from our collection. But in the meantime, why don't you take a closer look at our Sukkot stained glass windows. Hello, can you hear me all right?
Absolutely. Welcome to the show, Dara.
Wonderful. Thank you so much for having me. So I promised a closer look at the time capsule, and here it is. So we found this in the walls of the synagogue. So the synagogue itself, it's the oldest Sephardi synagogue in Manchester, and it was built in 1874. And that's when we can see some coins in here that date back to the 1870s as well. Most frustrating thing is, though, we haven't actually been able to open it yet, because you can see the wax seal is completely intact. So we're going to need some special assistance, I think, to try and open the time capsule. But yeah, very, very exciting.
What could possibly be found inside, we wonder?
I know. Well, because we can see some newspapers, we can see some synagogue minutes from as I said, from the 1870s, but we don't know if there's anything inside of that. So it's very, very exciting. It's like a little treasure chest, but it's just amazing. It survived that long. It survived both world wars. It survived all the building work that was happening. So yeah, it's just amazing.
And you're sitting in front of a sukkah, aren't you? So this is used for educational purposes, or?
I am. So the building is sort of a sukkah within a sukkah. So the building that I'm in is the sukkah that was attached to the original synagogue. So it's sort of on the back of it, and the roof would have been completely retractable. So we've sort of, during the renovation, kind of wanted to pay homage to that. So you can see there's an open skylight, which is sort of open to the elements which we've built our little temporary sukkah on today, which we've had people coming and helping to decorate. So yeah, it's been a really, really fun day.
Well, I can see that you're wearing some white gloves, which are very fashionable, but I suspect that's because you want to show us some artifacts.
Absolutely. I've got my magician's gloves on. So I've got a couple of other things that I can show you. So I thought I'd go with this one next. So I'm sure you can tell what this object is.
Madeleine, we know what that is, don't we?
Well, I'm hoping it's one of these.
Absolutely. So it's an etch box. So you can see it's got some floral. Oh, wonderful! It's got some floral decoration. It's got a little lion on the lid as well. We think this one actually used to be a tea caddy or a sugar caddy. You can see it's got a little lock on the front, and we actually don't have the key for it. So there's something inside it, and I'm hoping it's not an etrog, because if it is, it'll be rather an old one by now, I think. So we think it used to be used
a couple of those as well. Very old etrog.
So this one, it was brought over by the donor's grandfather, who was called Jacob Schleisinger, who came from Austria to Manchester after the war in 1946. So him and his wife Mika had survived the war in a ghetto in Budapest. So they came over, and then their grandson actually donated this to the museum.
Lovely. Just to let you know that Delia Atias Fishman is watching. Hi to you, and also the Singer family in Israel. Welcome to the program, to you too. Dara, what else have you got for us?
So I've got one more object to show you, Gabriel. So I know we've gone to a couple of different big cricket playing nations tonight to see their sukkahs. So I'm hoping you'll be able to recognise what this was used for. So this one's a really interesting one. So it's got the initials MK sort of stamped into the back of it. So this was from Michael Krieger, who made this board. He made it as a washboard to give to his brother. And his brother, Leon Krieger, brought this over to England when he came from Russia. And so once he got here with this washboard, he was seeing all the children in the street were playing lots of cricket. So in Manchester, you have something called Ginnell cricket, which is the sort of alleyways behind houses. And it was really popular to play cricket there. So this was sort of a washboard fashioned into a cricket bat, and then was donated to us. So we have this wonderful object with a really, really lovely story behind it. So it's sort of, it looks obvious at first, but then it's not quite what it seems.
Wow, that's really impressive. And in fact, you use the word ginnel, which is like a back passage, isn't it, behind houses. And the only reason I know that, of course, is that Manchester is home to the world famous soap, television soap, Coronation Street, and there's a ginnel behind there. So that's what we're talking about here.
Yeah, so yeah, you'd call it an alleyway, really, but yeah, Manchester phrase is Ginnell cricket.
Oh wow, very good. All right, lovely. So Dara, thank you so much. And of course, maybe we could all come together and have that massive reveal to see what's inside that little the time capsule.
Absolutely, I'll keep you updated, and when we manage to open it, hopefully we'll all be able to share the moment. So thank you so much for having me.
Thank you very much. And thank you very much to Dara Laughlin from the Manchester Jewish Museum. Madeleine, are you okay now? I think we lost our connection.
Yes, Hampstead decided to drop out. I'm back. And
okay.
We got our lovely etrog sitting around.
Right. Have you now switched the lights off?
No, I don't know what's happened. This is evening show. It'll come back in a minute.
All right. We'll keep going.
Where are we going next?
Well, I'm going to ask you that.
Well, I think we're going to hear some music now, aren't we? We've got a message from the Alma Primary School. Is that right?
Oh, right. I think you're right. I think we just got a message in from the Alma Primary School, and then we're going to go downstairs to see the New West End Shul.
Over to you.
Ladies and gentlemen, I'd like to introduce you to Mr. Henry McGrill, who is the past chairman of the New West End Synagogue and a total expert on its history and its treasured objects, of which we are going to show you two. Henry.
Thank you, David. We were looking for items that were relevant to Sukkot, and amongst the valuables, we don't have a lulav, but we do have this beautiful silver esrog box, complete with esrog. This was donated to the shul in 1901 to commemorate the bar mitzvah of Ernest Haynes, who we believe would have been a son or possibly grandson of the first chazan of the shul. It's usually kept in the safe and hasn't actually seen the light of day for some years now, but it's very nice to have it out again. Secondly, we have a breastplate. This is not specifically for Sukkot, but it has, as you can see, a panel whereby you can change the name on the front to suit the occasion. This is gold plated onto silver filigree. It was in the shul inventory as Hamburg 1860 until it was looked at by an expert who said that was probably a typo. It should have been 1680. So this is late 17th century. We unfortunately have a piece missing. We have the piece, but we can't find a silversmith who's prepared to put a soldering iron anywhere near it, because it might do more harm than good.
The rose window above the ark was donated in memory of Emma Louisa Rothschild in the late 1930s. It was designed and created by Erwin Bassanyi, who was one of the foremost stained glass artists of that period, and indeed his work can be found in a chapel in Canterbury Cathedral. The work consists of 12 panels, each showing an item of either Jewish practice or relevant to a specific festival during the year. And the one you're seeing now is clearly the one for Sukkot, because there's a lulav and esrog shown very clearly. Interestingly, if you look in the Shul Council minutes of the period, there is a reference to the window being completed, but there is no reference anywhere to the Rothschilds asking permission to put it in. And one can't avoid suspecting that the Rothschilds decided they were going to put it in and did it, and informed the community afterwards.
Right, so that's really interesting. So that's what's going on downstairs in the shul there. And if you're in London and you want to visit either the Hampstead Synagogue or the New West End Synagogue, please do get in touch. We'd love to show you around. Okay, well, I think that's it. We're going to be back at the end of the show with something really rather special, but we're going to leave, Madeline and myself are going to leave you now with something from Sadeh Farm in Kent, Southeast England. So for now, Madeline and myself, it's good night.
Good night.
Hello, I'm Talia, and I am filming from Sadeh Farm, which is the Jewish farm in Kent. And we're not filming from inside the Sukkah, because Sukkot is a harvest festival. The main harvest time of the year. If you're vegetable growing, you're very busy. You're harvesting the rest of your summer crops, like your beans and your squashes, which I'll show you a few. Like this beautiful squash over here. We have loads of these. So it's a really important time in terms of the agricultural year and in the Jewish calendar, because those two things always overlap. And I guess we talk a lot in Sukkot about our sukkah. We're thinking about how exactly you make it, what is 3.5 walls, what is allowed to be used for schach, but perhaps we talk a little bit less about the fact that this is a harvest festival, and in the temple times we would have been gathering our finest crops and taking them up to the temple and giving thanks for the weather, for the sun, for the rain, those things that we need in order to make sure we can grow food. This year is particularly exciting because it's Shemitah year, and we're thinking a lot about Shemitah and Sadeh and how to bring in the concept of rest, why we need rest, why we let the land lie fallow for a little bit of time instead of, mining the soil for all of its nutrients, how we can maybe think that we're partners in this work of growing food and looking after the planet with the divine. It's not all on us. And rest allows us to reflect on that. So we talk a lot about how exactly we're going to do Shemitah here at Sadeh. I think we're going to have a Shemitah corner. Well, we are having this Shemitah corner at the bottom of the bed where we just leave it and kind of see what happens. It's very important in terms of biodiversity. All insects and birds need areas that you leave. So this is an exciting time to do that. And I am now just going to show you our special guests who also live at the farm, the chickens. These are our chickens who also live at Sadeh. We have one beautiful cockerel called Georgie, and the rest are lovely rescue chickens who used to be battery hens and now live out a happy sunny retirement. And they also very much enjoy Sukkot because they get to eat all of the windfall apples.
Well, that Sadeh farm is just inspiring. I mean, it's the most remarkable thing, and people might have seen running along the bottom there. It's possible to go have a holiday. They've just opened a holiday home, a hotel there, so you can go and spend time on Sadeh farm. It's a Jewish farm. It's very aware of Jewish issues. It's of course concerned about the environment. And this lovely, exploring the idea of Shemitah, those of you not familiar with that, the idea that every 7 years the land of Israel should be left fallow, shouldn't be exploited. Well, how you work with that in the English countryside, I don't know. But nevertheless, it's a really important idea. And as we worry more and more about the environment, it's really worth thinking about that. I also noted, Penny, that they were talking about old synagogues. The one in Manchester, founded in 1874, the new West End, it's called, founded in 1875, I think they said. Here in Bristol, next Sunday, we're celebrating our 150th anniversary, founded in 1871. So we're older than any of those. We're going to have the wonderful choir from the new West End Mosaic Voices coming to join us for a civic service there. We've got messages
I can tell you this, that 150 years ago, there were almost no Jews in Los Angeles. There's certainly no synagogue. And all the Jews of California more or less lived in San Francisco. But the whole of the Californian population, European population, only began in 1849 with the gold rush. So we're quite behind you in the history stakes.
Yeah, well, that's what I was going to ask, actually. Does California have any of that history? We're coming over to your neck of the woods now, Penny, because we're going over to the Western Hemisphere. We were a bit on the edge of it with Jamaica right at the very beginning, but now we're plunging properly into the Americas. And we're getting messages in from Africa, from Canada, people telling us that they're watching us in different parts of London and the UK, other places too. Please do tell us what's going on. I've just got a message here from India as well. So now over to the Americas. I think we're going to be in South America. We're going to Buenos Aires.
Yeah.
Penny, lead us in on this. Is it the Buenos Aires video first, I think, we're going to see?
Yeah. The Argentina.
Hello. Welcome to Buenos Aires, Argentina. My name is Claudia Erkman. I'm a tour guide, and I'm very happy to be part of this global Succah Hop. I would like to tell you about the foundation of the Jewish community of Buenos Aires. It's a very symbolic story, especially as we are celebrating Sukkot. We are now in the Recoleta district. It's a very French-looking district, expensive, very beautiful, but during the 19th century, it used to be the border of the city. The tree that you see behind me is the biggest and oldest tree in the city. It was planted in 1800. It's a rubber tree. In 1860, it was a regular tree. And that same year, there were only 6 recorded Jews in the city. One of them, Henry Joseph, an Englishman, came here during the high holidays and sat under the tree and started to pray with his prayer book. He didn't want to be bothered by other people in the city, so he came to the border of the city. He started to pray, and when he looked up, he saw another man doing the same thing with the same book under the same tree, and there were only 6 recorded Jews. So he approached, they started talking, and they made a promise to gather 10 Jewish men for the following high holidays to pray together. The second man was Louis Brie, a Frenchman. They made it. The following year, they came here, they gathered a minyan, and they started praying under the tree. So this was the first official minyan in Argentina. This is why we consider this tree to be the first synagogue in Buenos Aires. Because for a synagogue, you don't need a building or a ceiling or a luxury or furniture. You just need the prayer book and a minyan. These 2 men were the founders of the Jewish community of Buenos Aires, and then it became the Jewish community of Argentina. This is a very romantic story. I hope you liked it. So, good health, Chag Sameach to everyone, and thank you for including my city in this wonderful Succah Hop. Bye.
Oh, Claudia, that was a lovely story. And what a beautiful city Buenos Aires is. We can see you're outdoors.
In the Succah. You're in the Succah in Buenos Aires.
Yes, I'm in the Succah in Buenos Aires. First, let me tell you that I congratulate you on this event. It's so exciting to be part of it. Thank you for having Buenos Aires as part of your Succah Hop. And yes, I am in a sukkah in the outskirts of Buenos Aires with the Imach family. They are almost 30, and they had lunch already. And so they had asado, Argentinian beef for Sukkot. And we are very happy because although we have to thank, I was listening to Talia that we have to thank for the rain because of the harvest and everything. We are thanking for the sun here. It's beautiful weather. Weather is one of the best things we have. And so we are very happy to be here with you.
Well, it's lovely. The Buenos Aires Jewish community is a remarkable community. It's got amazing facilities. It's got wonderful people. And as you can hear in the background, it has wonderful conviviality as well. Very warm and friendly community too. Claudia, thank you so much for joining us and bringing us to South America and to its major community of Buenos Aires. Wonderful, wonderful place.
Thank you. Thank you for having us here.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Right. Well, Buenos Aires, beautiful air, lovely atmosphere. And there you are in Los Angeles, the Angels, the Spanish is a
City of Angels,
deal all around there, yeah. So we're going now, we've gone from South America, we're going all the way, we're going to overleap the United States. And we're off to Canada. Not only Toronto, which is over in the east of Canada, but all the way across Canada as well to the west. And what I have to say, I think, is the most lovely city of Vancouver. Anybody who has not been to Vancouver Airport hasn't lived. That is the greenest airport. That might sound like an odd thing, but it is the greenest airport on the planet, Vancouver Airport. But anyway, we're going to Canada. Let's see what happens there.
This is Rabbi Yossi Saperman of Living Jewishly in Toronto, Canada. Sukkot is a unique festival in that it asks us to leave our home and risk the outdoors for the purpose of remembering that there was a time when we as a people were vulnerable. it's still relevant because we as individuals and a people still feel vulnerable. Certainly now under COVID, our vulnerability is magnified. And one of the brilliant ideas that Jewish tradition has brought to us is the concept of ushpizen, or guests. This year, we have the ability to invite anybody we want into our sukkah. As in years past, except this year, it might just be people we are unable to connect to because of COVID. Sukkot comes to Canada at the change of seasons. It's a difficult time sometimes with regards to weather, rain, chilly, and so on. But nothing warms our heart like being able to know we're part of a greater Sukkah, the Sukkah of peace, in which the world is enwrapped with the covering of peace, in which our family lives return to peace and health. The Sukkah is the moment in which we appreciate the harvest of our lives. That is why Sukkot is so meaningful to me here, whether or not we enjoy the Sukkah in person this year. We still feel the connection to all the people under the great big tent of care and meaning. Chag Sameach.
To our Sukkah in Vancouver, British Columbia, Canada. We need some light here. I would like to begin by expressing our respect and gratitude for gathering on the indigenous lands of the Coast Salish peoples, Tsleil-Waututh and the Musqueam, traditional lands. We pay our respect to their elders, past and present.
And we remember those who settled in the land of Israel at the time when they were using sukkahs.
You're back.
Oh, that's marvellous, isn't it? And how lovely in that last message to respect the folk who had originally been, I mean, so many of our countries all around the world taken over by new folk. And a lovely message there from Vancouver. And how nice too to connect it to the Sukkot Shalom, the overall Sukkah of peace that we pray for. Thank you, Rabbi Yossi, as well. Penny, we're now going, I think, to New York.
We're going to New York. You know, Clive, the largest Jewish community or collection of Jews, population of Jews in the world outside of Eretz Israel is in the New York region, New York, New Jersey, what we call the tri-state area. They don't know exactly how many Jews, but it's probably close to 1 million. And they are every conceivable type of community and communal life in the New York area. And of course, Jewish food of every conceivable kind. And you can go to multiple different areas and see thriving Jewish life. And if you would today be driving down the streets of Brooklyn, whether it's in Borough Park or Williamsburg, you'll see Sukkot on the streets and people walking with their lulav and etrog, and it feels like Jerusalem. Of course, it isn't. But that is where the center of Jewish life is in the United States. I live at the other end, as we'll talk about in a minute, I live at the other end of the United States on the West Coast, but we're going to go across to the East Coast now, and let's hear a little bit from there.
Hi everyone, Moadim L'Simcha. My name's Naomi Nachman. I'm originally from Sydney, Australia, but I've been living in New York for 30 years. I live in the 5 towns, and I live in Whitmere of the towns. And this is my sukkah. I'm going to give you a little tour. So I always like to have a little bit of a motif. So I worked with this company, and it's called Sukkah Murals, and they create like these giant canvas posters of Yerushalayim, and you can pick what you want. So I have an Instagram account. They asked me to show all my followers as well their company, and they have these beautiful posters. There's one, and here's one, another one over here. That's Yamin Moshe. Obviously the other one was the Kotel. This is Yamin Moshe. It's like you're walking through an alleyway, but I wanted to take that theme and decorate it out. So I got these vines from Amazon, and I hung them. So it looks like the leaves are like 3-dimensional with the picture the plants stemming from Yamin Moshe, and then I kind of carried the theme over, and I got these beautiful leaves, more hanging leaves, and then I have my picture of the kotel. I felt like, you know, we're close to the kotel, but we're far away because of Corona, so that's why I chose this image. It looks like you're there, but it's a little bit blocked from the arches, so it was a good tie-in. And then I got also these on Amazon, these green, grassy looking mobiles. And then I decorated my table. I got this beautiful new tablecloth. It's got a bit of texture. It was green. I love green and silver, so it's, if you can see, it's green and silver. And then I made these. These are DIY. These are actually Beetology juice bottles. They had like beet juice in it. So we finished them and I saved the glass jars, all about recycling. And then I went to Costco and I bought flowers, and I made my own little flower vases, and I have 4 of them, and they go on my table like that. And yeah, that's my sukkah DIY. The whole thing probably cost me about $30 to create, plus these sukkah murals, which I did as a collaboration for Instagram. So that's my sukkah. I'd love to invite you all to my sukkah and have a drink and refreshments and cookies and cake. I love to cook. I love to entertain. I wrote some cookbooks. I hope you're following me on Instagram. We love food. We love to entertain. So Shabbat Shalom and Chag Sameach.
Well, that's an Aussie gourmet in New York. Penny, you said that there were, you thought about 1 million in Jews in the tri-state area. I'd heard figures like 2 million, so I don't know. As far as I can see, we seem to have lost Penny for a moment. But I'm now going to bring him back in because Penny's one of the great educators, one of the great rabbis, and he has been a rabbi here in probably the most achingly trendy community in the UK back in the 90s and early 2000s, the Succah Synagogue. He has a wonderful way of lifting a community and inspiring it and enriching it. Those of you who don't know, he's part of the great Dunna rabbinic dynasty. So you know, he's just the latest incarnation of that. But Penny now is the rabbi of the Beverley Hills Synagogue. If he's not in achingly trendy places, he's just not at home at all. But now we have Penny in Beverly Hills. He's not very suntanned.
Well, you know, it's a little gloomy. You want to give us a shot of the sky here? It's a little gloomy here today in Beverly Hills. It's going to take a bit of time to get sunny. Sometimes it only gets sunny after 10, 11 o'clock. But we have about, I have to tell you, raining in California maybe 10 days a year in Southern California. So Sukkot is the perfect festival for Southern California. I'm going to invite you into my Sukkah. Carly, long-suffering Carly here is the one who's taking care of the camera. And she's done a lot of the work behind the scenes together with Gabriel and others to make sure that you have this fantastic international Sukkah Hop today. I'm going to take a little tour of my Sukkah. You mentioned the rabbinic dynasty. Here we have a picture of my late grandfather, Rabbi Joseph Dunner, who was the rabbi of the Adas community in Stamford Hill. He's there together with my late brother looking at an estrog. And here I found this treasure, this poster of rabbinic greats from England over the plain and Scotland as well, actually, over the past 100 years. From Diana Bramsky to Rabbi Lopian, and here's my grandfather. And there are others. There's Rabbi Padba, Rabbi Ordman from Eitz Chaim Yeshiva. A picture of my moil, Rabbi Shlomo Baumgarten. He was a rabbi of a shul in Stamford Hill, and various others. A fabulous poster. I couldn't actually, it was only for sale in the UK, but I managed to get the guy who made it to send me a PDF, which I had printed out here in a print shop, and it's a fabulous poster. Now, I want to show you, I can't quite compete with Sadeh Farm, but what I do have here are etrogim, which grew in California, and not in a farm, but in the garden of one of the members of my shul. Larry and Judith Garshovsky planted 5 or 6 etrog trees about 10 years ago, and they produce fabulous. I used this etrog this morning. It's a fabulous etrog, and he has various different types of breed of etrog, which every year produces. And you know, the etrog tree one of the marvelous, remarkable aspects of the etrog tree is that the etrogim grow all year round. There's no season for the etrog, and all year round you have etrogim, and in fact they never fall off. They grow bigger and bigger and bigger, and until they're so big that they actually rot on the tree, and you have to cut them off. But we take them at the early stages of ripeness, and we use them for the arba minim. Something else I want to show you here, which we're going to use on Simchas Torah. You can see here, it's live long and prosper from Star Trek, but it's in fact, it's the sign of the Kohanim. It's the way that they use their hands during the Birkat Kohanim. And the president of our shul, Steve Dorfman, is a Kohen. I alerted him to this. He bought 10 pairs to give to our Kohanim for Simchat Torah. They're all going to be wearing these socks, because of course they don't wear shoes when they do Birkat Kohanim on Simchat Torah. I thought it was available on Amazon. I'm not selling it. I make no money from it. And one last
Penny,
thing
according to the tradition, Penny, you're not supposed to look at the Kohanim. So we have to take their word for it that they're wearing these socks.
They'll be wearing those socks.
Yeah.
But one last thing I want to show you, and I noticed in all the Sukkot that we were in, we saw these chains, these lovely looped garlands with the little pieces of paper that get stuck together, and each one creates a loop in the chain. And we've got one here stretched all the way across one wall of our sukkah. It was made by my 2.5-year-old grandson, Joseph. And Joseph made this chain. It's got a place of great importance in our sukkah. And I see every link in this chain as being a representation of all the different sukkot that I have sat in, and my parents and grandparents sat in. And when we sit in a sukkah, we're not just sitting in a sukkah. What we're doing is we're sitting in every sukkah that we've ever sat in. And we have all the memories of the sukkot experiences that we've had and that our parents and grandparents have had. And in fact, some of the links of the chain are the future Sukkot, next year's Sukkah, and in 10 years' time. And perhaps even when I won't be in a Sukkah anymore, but my grandchildren will be a link in that chain that takes us all the way back to the Sukkot that we sat in the wilderness during the 40 years when we were after leaving Egypt and before we entered into Eretz Yisrael. So the Sukkah is really the embodiment of the Jewish experience. And as we face a winter, we sit in this quite temporary space, but we know that God is with us, and God is behind us, and God is protecting us, like the Ananei HaKavod, the clouds of glory that protected us in the wilderness, which Rabbi Akiva says in the Talmud is what the Sukkah represents. So Clive, it's been a wonderful journey. It's been fantastic to be able to co-host with you again. Hopefully we'll do another Sukkah Hop next year, but in the meantime, Chag Sameach to you all. Good Yom Tov. Right. Have a wonderful Sukkot, a lot of simcha on Simchas Torah, and I hope to see you again soon.
Well, Penny, we're going to meet some members of your community, I think. I think we've got a video from the Young Israel of North Beverly Hills. So we're going to...
We do.
Oh, we don't have it anymore?
I don't think so. I think Carly's shaking her head. We'll have to wait for that until next year. We're going to have a lot of our members next year.
We're going to have to take your word for it, Penny, that there are more than 2 Jews in Beverly Hills, right? We accept that. Folks, we talked a lot about the rain and the wind and the weather and stuff. We're going to, on Shmini Atzeret, we pray for rain. Strictly speaking, we should have prayed for rain at the beginning of Sukkot, just like we prayed for dew at the beginning of Pesach. But the rabbis, ever pragmatic, said, look, you don't want to pray for rain at the beginning of Sukkot, because, you've got to sit in your Sukkah. So they left it till Shmini Atzeret, so we don't get wet in our Sukkot. But all of this talk about the weather, it would just not be right, I think. We've got big environmental challenges in the world. We're coming up to major discussions coming up. Sitting in our Sukkot, aware of the weather, aware of the vulnerability of the world, we all have to play our part and do what we can. Either to pressure our governments or change our behaviors, or at the very least think about the world we're going to bequeath to our children and our grandchildren. Penny just showed us a picture of his little grandson. He talked about the future generations. This is something that we all have to take on board, I think. And Sukkot is really a time to think about the environment. And I hope we'll all resolve to try and be more responsible, less wasteful, more thoughtful about this beautiful, beautiful world that God has given us. So, folks, as Penny just said, it's been a great trip. I don't know if you and I will co-host. Maybe let's hope Sarah's feeling well next year, and maybe we'll do a trio, or she'll be back on board. It's been a wonderful tour around the world, and I think we're going back to Gabriel, back in London. He promised us something special.
Absolutely. I did promise you something special, but before I do that, ladies and gentlemen, girls and boys, wherever you may be watching us from, I'm sure you'd want me to thank Rabbi Dunner and Clive Lawton for their inevitable hosting again for this year. Thank you, Rabbi Dunner. Thank you, Clive. And also, of course, Madeline from Hampstead as well. Thank you all to them. Now, I do make sure that you contact us at info@hampsteadshul.org.uk, because we've got some other broadcasts that we'd love to be able to bring to you with an international flavor. Some very big things coming up. So if you do want to get on the act on that, please do make contact with us. We'll be delighted to share with you what we've got coming up too. But for now, I want you to do me a favor. I want you, please, to have a very happy new year. And I also want you to have a very healthy one too. Well, I did tell you that we have a very special treat for you. Here on the roof at the New West End in central London, we have the Mosaic Voices, very much attached to this community. They got something very special, and we're going to play that to you now. But for now, on the rooftops of London, a very good night.
ישמחו במלכותך שומרי שבת וקורא עונג ישמחו במלכותך שומרי שבת וקורא עונג Amakadosh Shavi Kulam Yisbeu Vayitango Mitovecha Yismechu V'malchutecha Shomerei Shabbat V'korei Oneg V'korei Oneg ישמחו במלכותך שומרי שבת וקורא עונג ישמחו במלכותך שומרי שבת וקורא עונג ישמחו במלכותך ישמחו